fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. I am Al Warren, and we got Mr. Michael Hawley.
That is correct. I am back, and we're going to get a heat wave in Buffalo. We're going to be above freezing next week. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, you deserve it, After, breaking your thumb. Is it healing, or did you get it fixed, or what?
Well, the doc said, suck it up, and then so just patch it up. That's exactly what he said. Nothing we can do unless you want to spend a lot of money.
Well, yeah, and you're so old. What's the point, right?
Yeah, again, I'm going to be 64, so.
Yeah, well, that's retirement, right? So it's March already, spring, and we're having a return author, and he's got a new book out. The book is called Exit Sideways. It's part of the Dana Foresight Mysteries, and I believe it's book 2, and it's Mr. Stan Jones. Thank you for being here.
Hey, it's great to be here, and I got to say, like that, in Anchorage, they're in a similar situation to Buffalo. It's been close to 20 below up there, but recently the temperature has broken above zero, and I think maybe is approaching plus 20. So they consider that banana belt weather.
Wow, suntan weather.
Exactly. Get out the sunblock.
Wear your shorts. So what have you been up to the last couple of years since you were on last? Like, what goes on in Stan's life?
Well, mostly I work on books, try to keep the family household going, enjoy life, travel some. We do come to Palm Springs a couple times a year, and also a couple times a year we go up to a fascinating village in northwest Alaska called Kotzebue, which is an Inupiat Eskimo village. And that village is the model for the village of Chukchi in my other series, the Nathan Active series. So, stay busy and keep moving, I guess, would be the motto.
Yeah, keep your mind going. So now this is a change of series, kind of, different from the series that you write up from the north.
Very much so.
So why did you do that? Like, why change? It's almost the complete opposite sort of lifestyle from one to the other. You go from Alaska to Palm Springs. It's kind of a different, not only weather, but just the way it lives,
Absolutely. And it happened purely by happenstance. I had a dear friend, like from the 7th grade, who very late in life, at age 70 something, got married for the first time. And his new wife had a place down here. And they said, hey, you should come down and visit us. So I was prepared for Palm Springs to be comfortable and nice and pretty with lots of palm trees and golf courses. All of that proved to be true. What I had not expected was when we took a little road trip down to the other end of the Coachella Valley. That's where Palm Springs is. It's at the north end. Well, down at the south end, there's this kind of dystopian area. You got the Salton Sea, which is California's largest lake. It is heavily polluted. You dasn't go swimming in it. And it's drying up. It also has down there the nation's biggest homeless camp, Slab City, which if people remember a movie called Into the Wild that was kind of Alaska-based. The kid in that movie actually spent some time in Slab City on his way to Alaska, and they shot a scene for the movie in Slab City. So Slab City is something you just have to see to believe. It covers a square mile of California desert that used to be a military base. And if you want to move to Slab City, get yourself a tent or an RV, or even maybe a great big car and drive down there and park it or put it up if it's a tent, and you are an official resident of Slab City without further ado. Nearby is Salvation Mountain, which is a great big desert religious shrine that was created maybe 30, 40 years ago by a guy named Leonard Knight, who's now passed away. And it's become a kind of it's on the National Register of Religious Shrines or something like that. But anyway, weirdness and a kind of dystopia abounds down at that end of the lake. And I said, man, this is in some ways that stuff, the situation into the lake, somewhat reminds me of some of the dysfunction in rural Alaska. And it was that, plus the contrast between that area and Palm Springs, that made me think it was a fertile ground for a mystery series. And I should say that my son, who's lives in L.A. and is a screenwriter with a USC film school degree, is adapting the first book, The Sand Garden, into a pilot for a TV series. And,
Nice.
Fingers crossed that anything happens there. I know how long a shot that is. But my point is, he has titled this pilot, he has titled it Desertopia, which I think is a great name for it. And I had thought of naming the series that, but I really decided it had to have the sleuth's name in it. So Desertopia is a good word for the extremes that you see here in the Coachella Valley. Palm Springs at one end, the rest of it at the other end.
Your fellow Alaskans are going to call you an outsider now.
They probably will, yeah, or even a carpetbagger.
Yeah, he turned into a city folk.
Mm-hmm. I have to stay indoors for a week or two before I go back, so my suntan will fade.
Oh, but you'll wrap yourself up like the mummy.
There you go.
You can always, if you need someone to play in that movie, in that series, Michael's always available.
Is that right, Michael?
That is correct. I am a narcissist, and I love being in front of the TV.
All right. Well, there is a character that might fit. Dana Forsyth, as I've mentioned, is a PI, a private investigator, but she often works for a kind of sleazy, brilliant lawyer named Ike Skogel. So maybe you could play Ike.
Perfect.
Oh, so I'm the sleazy one.
It doesn't get sleazy.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Are you hinting that this is, like typecasting perfectly?
It is. I would almost say you wrote it from his character. He was the influence of this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You've been reading my stuff, haven't you, Steve?
I think I should.
Yeah, it'll give you good insight to that. But so now with something like this, because you were living in Alaska and you know a lot about the community and that part of the world and the country.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because you write, if I'm correct, you write a lot of that as a character. Like the setting is so important.
Absolutely, that's another thing the two series have in common: character as place as character.
So how do you achieve that with Palm Springs, because you've gone there and it's new to you and you're kind of traveling around going, wow, you didn't know this was here, and you see this and see that and stuff. So what do you spend a lot of time down there to absorb it? Is this what's going on? Is this like a big tax write-off? Like what's going on?
Mostly when I want to figure out what a place is like, I just go there and observe. And, there's a lot to observe in Palm Springs. And in addition, I monitor news feeds and news stories about the place of interest. So when I'm working on a Palm Springs story, I spend like an hour once a week browsing through all the news sites that have Palm Springs stories.
I do that in Walmart. I get called creeper all the time.
There you go, yeah.
See what I mean? Sleazy. Now, Dana Forsyth.
Mm-hmm.
This character it's her mystery. So first, where does this character come from, and how do you write a female?
Well, she comes from my desire to do something I hadn't done before, and that was write a female. And two, it's also written in the first person. This is the first time I have ever done that.
Oh, wow.
So the first person has some advantages. You really get to hear her thoughts, but only when she speaks them. Well, you can have some interior monologue. She can tell you what she's thinking, but then it sort of sounds like dialogue. In the Nathan Active series, which is written in the third person, but it's close third person, close to first person, but it's he instead of I. With third person, it's a little easier to portray interior monologue. And of course, in a third person novel, if you need to change characters and write a chapter or a section from another character's point of view, you can do it. And that is really just not practical in a first person novel, in my opinion. I haven't seriously tried it yet because I can't think how to make it work. So there are some challenges writing first person. And so what is she like? She is a former cop who was married to another cop who was killed on duty. Soon after he was killed, this mysterious midnight biker called the Chaplain showed up with a pair of twins and dropped them off on her patio and told her that they were her late husband's children by a mistress that she had never known, had no idea of the affair, much less outside kids. So in answer to the question, well, why are you dropping them off on me? The answer is because their mother was murdered tonight. And that's how the first book starts. All this is dropped on Dana all at once. And then within a day or two, it turns out that her buddy Ike Skogel, are you listening, Mike? I'm pointing at you now. Her buddy Ike Skogel is defending the accused killer, and he wants to hire her to be his legal investigator for the case. So that's how she's sucked into this vortex of drama surrounding the death of her late husband's mistress. So that's who Dana is. And again, that's the first book. The second one is different. That's who she is as far as her personality. She's kind of a cynical smartass. And I know that, PIs are often like that. But the thing about this particular smartass cynical PI is she is in substantial part a reflection of how I am. I'm kind of a cynical smartass and view the world, fatalistically. So in some ways, she's a representation of me, other than gender. In the second book, Exit Sideways, the new one, the case involves a gorgeous young trophy wife who, within the space of 3 days, is charged with killing not only her rich old husband, but also the golf instructor lover that she was having an affair with. Once again, Dana is sucked into this maelstrom of human emotions and drama and so on. And I should say that in this series, I'm trying a device that I was kind of worried about at first, but it seems to work for readers, and it really seems to work in the screenplay that my son is doing. I decided to have a character named Imaginary Frank show up from time to time. He just materializes out of nowhere, and he talks to Dana, and he is the imaginary personification of her dead husband. And she knows he's not real. She knows he's not a ghost. She's just kind of a psychological device she realizes that her mind has created so she can sort of vent at this son of a bitch who had an affair and had kids with an outside woman and never told her. So he shows up every once in a while. She calls him a bastard and all that. But because he's really a figment of her imagination, as he says from time to time, I only know what you know. If she asks him a question about a case, that's what he said. Well, I only know what you know. But the fact is, as a psychological device, he brings out things that are in her head that she is not aware are in there until he tells her. So it's true, he doesn't know anything she doesn't know. Point is, sometimes she doesn't know what she knows until he drags it out of her. So he's both a literary device and a sort of psychological device that helps her in her investigations. And for me as a writer, a way to dramatize some of the ongoing issues she has with this husband of hers, whom she loved deeply, but turned out to be a cheater.
Use a beta reader maybe to help you out with like a female voice?
I do have several readers, mostly friends who are or were writers, and I send it to them for a look. Also to Paul, my son who's doing the screenplay. Actually, my daughter and wife, too. And in particular, my daughter is not the least bit shy of telling me when I have screwed up. If you've ever had a daughter, you probably know what I mean.
Oh, yes. And I do.
Yeah, so I was very much aware of the need to get some guidance on how well I'm creating this female character.
And so do you have Mike, the sleazy role in book 2?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Ike is very much involved in this. You'll be shocked to hear that he is defending the trophy wife accused of killing her husband and lover.
I know him. I'm not surprised. When you take on a series, like when you started the series, right, did you have a feeling that you were going to do several books? Was this a planned series from the get-go, or is it just sort of happening?
I did, yes. I had these two very clearly in mind, figuring the third one would take care of itself when the time comes. And it more or less has. One of the most interesting things in the books to outside readers, I mean, people who are not familiar with this area, is Slab City. So the next one I think is going to be called Murder in Slab City, because I think that title with City in it will attract a certain amount of attention all by itself. And it's going to be based on a real murder that happened in Slab City a few years ago. And here's how it started. If this doesn't sound like the start of a mystery novel, I never heard something that did. There was a trans man down there, that is, a woman who had transitioned to man, and his name was Poe. And one day, a bunch of blood was found around the Slab City hot springs, which are between Slab City and Salvation Mountain. And nobody knew exactly what was going on. And then 3 days later, Poe's body was found, all cut up with knife wounds, in the Coachella Canal, which is a canal of Colorado River water that runs along the north edge of Slab City. So Poe had been murdered at the hot springs, transported about a mile north, and thrown into the Coachella Canal. And that's the start of the story. Well, that part of it is just going to write itself. I think they did catch somebody and charge him and maybe convict him. I haven't updated myself lately. So I don't know really how closely the novel wants to follow true facts, but just that launch, the murder of a trans man. I think probably there are way fewer trans men than trans women. The murder of a trans man in Slab City and the circumstances. Murder scene a mile from the place where the body was found. It just seemed irresistible to me the first moment I heard about it.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you get these stories and you kind of research them a little deeper and you start to find out all these different aspects and stuff, and they end up being a book, because there's so much to them. Do you in a case like that, do you go out looking for people that knew the victim or that were part of the whole scene, or do you avoid that?
I haven't done it yet because I'm not into that book yet. Last fall, when I was in Palm Springs, my wife was here and also my son, the screenwriter guy. And we went up and spent a night in Slab City. And believe it or not, they have Airbnbs there. But don't get your hopes up. This Airbnb was a motorhome that looked like it hadn't been cleaned out in maybe a year. And next to it was the abode of the owner, which was one of the many kind of lean-to tent / plastic sheeting shelters that people live in up there. So I spent quite a bit of time talking to that particular slabber, that's what they call themselves, about the murder of Poe. And he actually didn't know much about it, which is both, surprising and not surprising. Surprising because you think it'd be the talk of the community, not surprising because there is not in any usual sense of the word a community in Slab City. Those people are loners. Their camps are not close together. I don't know how much they communicate with each other, but not much that I can see. And it may be that most of the traffic about Slab City takes place on Facebook. There's quite a few Slab City Facebook pages, and I go on there to kind of find out what's happening in Slab City. So when I get into the book, I may try to do some more of that, but probably most of it will be research into stories about the murder and the investigation and the arrest. I think they made one. I'm not sure if it's come to trial or what the outcome was, but that's usually the best source for this stuff. It's easy to get. There's lots of it in different places from different angles. And you don't have to spend the time trying to cultivate traumatized family members and friends and, sort of invade their privacy.
I was just going to say, maybe you could combine both of your experiences, like, I think, the Butcher Baker, that Robert Hansen from Alaska. So you could have the Butcher Baker from Slab City.
There you go. Well, there was a suspect, and I'm not sure if he turned out to be the one, who was, well known in Slab City for, his fondness for knives. So, that would be my first suspect too.
So do you find it more challenging to write out of Palm Springs and the atmosphere you have there as compared to what it was up in Alaska?
Well, I do. It's not home, so I don't have my complete home office at my disposal. And also, whenever I'm here, it's substantially a research trip. At home, because I am at home and I've done everything in Anchorage and know everything in Anchorage. It makes sense just to hole up and work. Well, here, you don't want to come down to Palm Springs and stay in the unit all the time. So I feel compelled to get out and get about and go look at things and so on. So I get some work done, but not as much as at home.
Did you have sort of a subtext to this story? Do you have a meaning behind this, or is this just kind of entertainment?
Well, every once in a while, I hear something or see something completely unrelated to anything I've ever done before, and it sticks in my mind. And I just eventually say, you know what? There may be a story in there. And I'm not sure I should even admit this because it sounds too corny. But to some extent, the trophy wife in Exit Sideways was inspired by the female at the heart of the Eagles song, Lion Eyes. Remember that line? A rich old man and she won't have to worry. She can dress all up in lace or something and go in style. And then, she's in the song regretting a boy she knew in school, her backstory. And some of that is in this story. That song actually kind of seemed like a short story to me. I made it into a long story with murder.
Throw in some murder, of course. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. Mm-hmm. And you enjoy writing the bad guy anyway, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. They're the most interesting part of the story.
Well, so why do you think that is? Does it free you up to be who you want to be?
Well, in this story, in these books, Dana is a good guy or a good person to the extent they're anybody's pure. She's relatively pure of moral and motive. The question about the bad guy is, why do people do evil things? And of course, you don't want a villain who's just, a guy who has a nasty laugh and does evil for the fun of it. People have reason for the terrible things they do, and it's always fun to explore that. And even to some extent, come to understand why they did it and say to yourself, oh yeah, I get it now. Is it possible I would do something like that in a similar circumstance? Well, I hope not, but I guess I can't really rule it out.
Right. So you're finding out stuff about yourself.
Yeah, that's true. It's partly an inner voyage to see what's inside your own soul and heart and mind. Mm-hmm.
Stan, are you saying that you lack remorse and you could be a serial killer or something?
Well, gosh, I hope not. And I think I do have some empathy, but at the same time, I'm also kind of cynical smartass.
Well, I don't know. We might find out later, Mike, that this is
That's right.
It's all from experience, all these books.
I'm sure somewhere there must have been a mystery written where a mystery writer was actually writing about his own murders, and the sleuth figured it out and busted him.
Yeah, he's from Alaska.
Yeah, right.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
He had a simple name, like something like Stan, and
That's right.
Jones, which is like you couldn't come up with a worse fake name, Dan Jones. Oh yeah, sure.
Sure. That's Jones. Yeah.
Yeah. Jones. Yeah, Jones, Smith, any of that stuff, right?
So here's another thing about names in this book. Now that I think of it, Ike Skogel, the attorney, right? People say, well, Skogel, what nationality is that? Is it Scandinavian somehow or what? I said, not any nationality. I just made it up. As far as I know, there's nobody on earth named Skogel. Except in my books.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. Someone will come forward and say, no, that's me.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
could
me.
happen.
Yeah.
It could happen. Yeah.
So do you think you become different after every time you write one of these stories? Like when you go through all these ups and downs and challenges and you put yourself through kind of a learning curve in a way from the differences and stuff like that you go through and the crimes and the voices and stuff like that.
Sure, when you immerse yourself in a project, as long as the book change is inevitable because you learn so much doing the research, and then as you write it and portray these characters doing the things they do, it kind of inevitably makes you ask yourself, well, what are human beings really like? Would a human being ever reach the point of doing this? So yeah, it's always an exercise in learning and to some extent self-analysis.
So in these crime books, like when you were writing the other one too, with the Nathan Active mystery, like the Ghost Light and stuff like that, do your characters always kind of end up how you think they should be? Do you know, like when you create a character and you're writing them, and you do several books, and they go through all these things, do you kind of foresee where they're going to end up, even if, because you might have the story lined up, like you said, the first 2 books of this, so you kind of know what you're going to do. But does the character change in ways you don't expect?
Yes, that definitely happens. You do have a general plan going forward, but you have to be prepared to adapt, to turn on a dime to make things work. And I can tell you one thing that's happening in Dana Forsythe's life in the Desert series. As I mentioned, her husband's twins with his mistress were dropped off on her patio, and she got stuck with them, which is the last thing she wanted. So she farmed them out to the family of her assistant, a Latina named Lita. And Lita's mother took them in because she's one of those people that was just born to be a mother, and the more little kids around, the better. In fact, she says at one point, this is the mother of Dana's assistant. She says, a woman needs something little to take care of. So she's happy to take in the twins. So over the course of the 2 books, she and the chaplain, this mysterious biker who brought her the twins at the start of the first book, had become closer, and they've become lovers, and things have evolved in the family of her assistant Lita and her mother Consuela, to where they may not be able to take care of the twins any longer. Lita's going to go off to Stanford and get a law degree, and her mother Consuela is kind of thinking about going back to Mexico because of the ICE crackdown, which leaves what's going to happen to the twins. So at the end of this book, it's starting to loom that Dana may either have to take in those twins and basically adopt them, painful as that would be in some regards, because look how they came into being, or they might end up in foster care or adopted out to some unknown entity. And she's realizing she doesn't want that. She may hate her husband for cheating. These little twins may represent everything about that, but at the same time, they're little kids and they need somebody. And she's connected to them, however much she may regret the circumstances that led to that connection. So the vibe at the end of this book is she's going to adopt them, and probably, she and the chaplain are going to at least become partners, if not a married couple.
Move to a trailer out in Slab City or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bask on the beaches of the Salton Sea.
So who you use? Do you ever do any people you actually know, good or bad, influence your characters?
Well, they do. Sometimes they're more specific and sometimes they're less specific, but almost all of the main characters are amalgams of people I've known, or sometimes they are quite closely modeled on people I've known or at least met. That's a big part of it. I think that's, one good way to breathe life into them. The thing about operating with just a designed character with a set of characteristics is, that kind of character, if you're careful, will never surprise you. And of course, real people that we all know, they do surprise us all the time. You're like, I never knew you felt that way, or wait a minute. That's who you were. That's what you were doing 20 years ago before we met. So it's easier to have your characters be as surprising as real people if they are modeled on real people.
So can we have a few names and phone numbers?
Absolutely not. You're sworn to secrecy, as am I.
Yeah, because we can give them a call and talk to them about this.
Yeah, get the real story behind the story, huh?
Yeah, just see what's really going on here.
Yeah. All right, so I can tell you an anecdote about using a real character as a model.
Sure.
In the first book in that Alaska series, I modeled a killer on a very prominent native leader in Kotzebue. It's all fictionalized in the book. The place is called Chukchi, but it's really Kotzebue. So the book came out and, gained some notoriety up there. And not long afterward, I went to Kotzebue for another visit. And I ran into this guy in the airport, this guy that I had portrayed as the killer. And he was really a kind of tough-minded, charismatic native leader who had gone through a lot of political battles with some racist overtones to, bring Alaska Natives into the mainstream of Alaska culture and politics and business. So he was a serious dude. I really admired him. Tough, smart, and as I say, charismatic. So, one day, not long after that first book came out, I found myself standing beside him in the airport. And I said, well, I guess I got to do this sometime. So I walked over to him and I said, hey, John, how you doing? And he said, thanks for making me out a double murderer. and then he grinned, this very characteristic grin he had. And I knew he was sort of rolling with it and maybe even amused by it. Didn't seem to mind a bit. Yeah, remember there was Billy the Kid or somebody who in the movie version used to say, I'll make you famous. Well, that's what I do to some of the people in my book. I make them famous.
There you go. Not always in a good way.
Right.
Well, I'm sleazy now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, he always was.
Sleazy Ike Skogel.
He always was. So.
Yeah.
It's just because of my prison time, Al. Oh, I didn't tell you about that, huh?
So, here's another thing about the characters in the books. When I start thinking about a book and thinking about the characters and thinking about what they look like, I usually try to model them on real people. And Ike Skogel, when I think of Ike Skogel, what does he look like? He looks like the actor John Turturro. And this mysterious figure, the biker, the chaplain in Exit Sideways, he is modeled on a 6.5-foot Alaska Native guy that I know. Really a giant with a beard. Because the chaplain is Latino, so he's ethnic looking, dark hair and dark skin. So I absolutely modeled him on this guy that I know from Alaska. Sort of looked like the initial vision I had of the chaplain. I said, well, whenever I need a detail, there it is.
Well, you should check out Michael's Facebook page. You'll get some good pictures there.
Some good ideas, I'm telling you.
I'll definitely do that.
Yeah. Well, listen, Stan, so how do you like people to get a hold of you? Are you still doing social media, website, and all that? Or have you got?
Right. I'm on Facebook, just my name, and I have a website. It's called sjbooks.com. My email address is sjalaska@gmail.com.
Well, thanks for being on the book, Exit Sideways. It's the Dana Forsyth Mystery Book 2, and it's Stan Jones. So thank you for being here.
And thank you so much for having me. It's been a tremendous pleasure.
It's great meeting you, Stan.
Nice meeting you, Mike.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.